Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something completely fascinating, the journey of how artificial intelligence isn't actually replacing our humanity, but requiring it. You know, the conversation around AI usually swings wildly between total existential dread and this kind of ungrounded utopian optimism. But the empirical reality, what's actually happening right now, is way more nuanced and honestly, a lot more exciting. We are quite literally looking at a fundamental repricing of the entire cognitive economy.
Okay, let's jump right into this massive question that's on pretty much everyone's mind right now. As AI seeps into our daily lives, is it going to isolate us? Well, the data points to a really surprising answer, and it comes down to something called the Jevons paradox. A lot of people fear automation will just wipe out jobs and human connection, but the Jevons paradox tells us that when you make a resource cheaper and more efficient to use, we actually end up consuming way more of it, not less. So when we lower the cost of routine cognitive tasks, things like summarizing, drafting, or basic coding, the demand for high-level human judgment doesn't shrink at all, it explodes.
I love this analogy. Think of AI as a daily forklift for your brain. Think about it. A physical forklift doesn't replace the construction worker, right? It just elevates their baseline capabilities. It lets them move literal tons of material so they can focus on the architecture instead of just breaking their back doing the heavy lifting. Well, AI is doing the exact same thing for our minds. It's the systematic offloading of routine cognitive tasks to an automated system. And what this does is shift human value away from basic production, moving it squarely toward judgment, empathy, and connection. And honestly, there's absolutely no field where this synergy is more beautifully illustrated than in education.
Which brings us to part 1, the educator's evolution and solving Bloom's 2 sigma problem.
So let's rewind to 1984. Educational psychologist Benjamin Bloom uncovered something extraordinary. He found that one-on-one tutoring combined with mastery-based learning improves student performance by 2 standard deviations. Now, to put that into perspective, that means the average tutored student outperforms 98% of traditionally taught peers. 98%! It's incredible. But it created what's known as the 2 sigma problem. Basically, it was completely economically and logistically impossible to scale one-on-one human tutors for every single student out there. So for decades, schools have known that personalized instruction works, but budgets and staffing shortages have just trapped students in this kind of intervention purgatory. That is, until now. The daily forklift of AI is literally the missing key to that 40-year-old lock. By bringing AI into the classroom, the teacher's role fundamentally transforms. Think about the traditional lecturer. They are entirely bottlenecked. They're bogged down by routine grading, they're trying to pace a single lesson for 30 entirely different minds, and they're constantly managing diagnostics. But when you offload those routine diagnostics and the pacing to an AI tutor, the human teacher evolves into a high-value motivation coach. The AI handles the instant feedback, like, correcting a procedural error in a math problem the second it happens, while the human educator gets to focus on student flow states, relational accountability, and ultimately restoring a student's belief in themselves.
And we can clearly see how this plays out in reality. Take the data from a recent study on hybrid tutoring. It tracks lower-performing students who received proactive human tutoring, where the human tutor actively initiated support and checked in frequently. Compare that to higher-performing students who received reactive support, meaning they worked independently with the AI and only pulled in the human when they were stuck. The data perfectly visualizes that matching the intensity of human support to the student's actual needs works flawlessly. Lower-performing students desperately need that proactive human connection to stay engaged, right? Meanwhile, higher-performing students absolutely thrive with the autonomy of the AI, just knowing a human is there if they need backup.
The hard data proves it for sure. When you combine the continuous, adaptive support of an AI tutor with the deeply relational, motivational support of a human, the results are just staggering. We are seeing a 61% increase in academic growth on standardized MAP tests compared to an AI-only baseline. Plus, students spent 25% more time on task and showed a 36% increase in skill proficiency. And maybe the best part? This AI orchestration enables a 90% mastery floor. That means a student literally cannot advance until they have truly mastered the current concept, which permanently closes learning gaps. It just goes to show that the absolute best tutoring isn't about just feeding a student facts. It's about combining immediate machine feedback with the relational accountability that only a real human being can provide.
But okay, let's be real for a second. If we're talking about handing over our classrooms, our workflows, and our data to AI systems, we inevitably slam right into a wall of anxiety. We face the existential dread of the so-called inscrutable black box. And the fear makes sense. It's this idea that neural networks are just too complex, that they're capable of these arbitrary, unchecked capability leaps, and that we're basically letting a ghost into the machine that we can neither understand nor control.
But what if we didn't have to guess what an AI was thinking? What if we could actually open that black box and map its pathways, just like a physical circuit board? To do that, we have to pivot away from the abstract sci-fi doomer narratives and completely ground ourselves in concrete mathematical realities.
Which brings us to part 2, demystifying the black box, and the cyberpunk blueprint of mechanistic interpretability. So, through this incredible breakthrough field called mechanistic interpretability, researchers are proving that neural networks are not magic at all. They're just incredibly dense. Historically, they've been super hard to audit because of a concept called superposition. This is where the network basically compresses multiple different concepts into a single activation just to save space. Think of it like a tightly tangled ball of yarn. But researchers at labs like Anthropic and DeepMind have developed something called Sparse Autoencoders, or SAEs. These are algorithms that actually solve this superposition problem. They mathematically factorize those complex, highly compressed AI thoughts into a sparse basis of clear, disentangled, and completely understandable concepts. They essentially untangle the yarn.
And here is how we untangle that yarn on a practical, everyday level. First, the SAE unpacks those compressed neural activations. Second, it isolates the disentangled features, which is sometimes called persona vectors. Basically, this means we can find the exact mathematical circuit inside the AI that represents, say, sycophancy. That urge to just tell the user whatever they want to hear, or the specific circuit that causes a hallucination. And third, which is absolutely crucial, once we isolate that circuit, we can debug it. We can mathematically edit out those undesirable traits, essentially turning down the dial on hallucination before the AI is ever even deployed to the public. We're shifting from a paradigm where we just cross our fingers and hope the AI behaves to a paradigm where we are mathematically enforcing alignment.
And this is where it all comes full circle. When we combine these two massive breakthroughs, the algorithmic safety of mechanistic interpretability and the cognitive offloading of the daily forklift, we return right back to Benjamin Bloom's dream. Through safe, auditable, and aligned AI, that incredible 98% performance boost, that 2 standard deviation leap that was completely economically impossible back in 1984, is finally within reach for every single student.
To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final thought. We've seen today that lowering the cost of intelligence doesn't remove the human from the equation at all. It creates this massive vacuum that only human judgment, empathy, and motivation can actually fill. The teacher isn't replaced, they're elevated to a coach. The black box isn't some terrifying mystery, it's a map we are actively learning to read. AI is simply a tool, a powerful programmable daily forklift that fundamentally requires our humanity to scale effectively. So as we step into this new cognitive economy, the most important question isn't what the AI will do to us. The question is, how will you harness the synergy, and what will you build with your daily forklift?